So, what was the jump from you working as a paint contractor to now starting a nonprofit? I mean, that's a pretty wide swing. You're still in the paint world, but it's a whole different mission and focus.
It was really fairly simple to get all of this paint that people don't want anymore. Everybody had it and there was nobody doing it. So it was really just kind of a no-brainer to say, wow, we've got this raw material that we can turn something in, we can recycle it and turning into something beautiful, creating a whole lot of opportunity for people.
So, tell me a little bit of your story, but also I want to hear the story of Earth Paint, what you do, where you came from, and how you got to where you are today. So, real quick, where are you from? What's the beginning of your story and how you got to Earth Paint?
All right. Well, I live right around O'Hare Airport. We're in a town called Wooddale. And for about 15 years, I ran a paint contracting company and I also had my real estate license. So I was kind of just immersed in the whole housing world. And one thing that all of my customers had in common was, what do I do with all this old paint that is in the house or was here when I bought it? Or, I don't have these colors anymore. So I want to figure out how to get rid of this stuff because it's not a good idea to throw liquid paint in the garbage or worse, find someplace else for it to go. And we all know that people say to put kitty litter in it and stuff, but that doesn't really do a very good job either of, eliminating the liquidity part of it. So plus, we don't want to add more material to a landfill. So over a few years, actually, I was doing research and trying to figure out how to properly recycle paint. And at the same time, I was volunteering my time with special needs groups and just doing painting within facilities. And I just really found that I clicked with the special needs world. So I said, you know what? There's an opportunity here, I think. So let's hire a few people to see if we can open all these paint cans and mix them together and filter them and repackage them, and then maybe I can use them on paint jobs or something. And that just turned out to be just an amazing experience the first time. So I said, you know what? I want to do this full time. Let's hire as many people as we can. Let's collect as much paint as we can, and let's turn this into a nonprofit that helps not only people with special needs, but those special needs people can really make a significant impact on the environment with all of this unwanted paint. So that was really where Earth Paint came to be.
That's awesome, man. So, what was the jump from you working as a paint contractor to now starting a nonprofit? I mean, that's a pretty wide swing. You're still in the paint world, but it's a whole different mission and focus. What was that jump? How did that go?
Well, let's face it, being a paint contractor is nothing but competition. I'm competing against other handymen and painting contractors and DIY people that want to just paint by themselves. And so that was always a struggle. And anybody who runs a paint contracting company knows, I'm always out there looking for that next job. It was really fairly simple to get all of this paint that people don't want anymore. Everybody had it and there was nobody doing it. So it was really just kind of a no-brainer to say, wow, we've got this raw material that we can turn something in, we can recycle it and turning into something beautiful, and we have creating a whole lot of opportunity for people. So let's just do that full time and eliminate one little headache of finding that next job. And so that's where our success really skyrocketed because we scaled up. We were able to take paint from municipalities and contractors and homeowners
Mhm.
and collect a ton of paint to keep people busy now for 13 years.
Hmm. Wow. So, what was the biggest challenge you initially faced? Was it staffing, or how do we get more paint, or how do we purify it and get it ready to resell or distribute? Like, what was the biggest challenge you had initially?
There's a lot of challenges when setting up a nonprofit. We don't really have a marketing budget. So we really rely on word of mouth and social media and PR opportunities and, opportunities to talk to people like this. So that was a big challenge trying to just let the world know that we exist. Then, really, just figuring out how to do what we do because it wasn't about speed. We're working at the pace of each one of our individuals and really doing job skill training, life skills training. So it was kind of a slow process to say, all right, we're starting with 1 gallon and we're putting it into a 5 gallon. And now we've got 55-gallon barrels and now we've got 275-gallon totes and growing that process to make it as efficient as it possibly could be while really trying to focus on the learning aspect of what we do. And we have to do things kind of slow because we want to recover every drop of paint and every container that we can then clean out and recycle. So yeah, there was a lot of challenges at the first couple years trying to figure out how to do what we do when there really isn't a whole lot of places in the world that do what we do, especially focusing on a staff 100% comprised of people with special needs and different needs.
Yeah, as we're talking, it's so apparent that you have one mission, but there's two very specific objectives. One is paint, clean. We don't want that in the landfills. We don't want that going down, into the sewage system. That'd be terrible. But also, you have a completely separate mission, which is let's take folks that are able, willing, and ready to work with special needs, and let's train them up and help them have joyful, fruitful, productive day-to-day lives. So do you find that walking those two lines is difficult, or is it pretty simple once you get going? You're like, no, it all kind of falls right into together.
I don't want to say that it was ever difficult because I loved it so much from the very beginning. And you know what they say, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. So I wake up every day expecting a challenge that we can easily overcome. So the majority of our folks that, let's say, are on the autism spectrum, that training happens one time and then it becomes like a routine that just blows my mind every day to see the focus and the capability and the productivity. And then our main manager, Matt, he has cerebral palsy, so he's the smartest guy I know. And he doesn't move around very well, but he really inspires everybody because there's nothing that he won't do. And so when customers come in, they're like, "Wow, look at this guy!" And he's like, "I'm no different than you. I just do it a little slower." And so, with Matt pretty much running the productivity part of it, we are just running smooth.
That's great.
It was meant to be.
That's awesome. I was looking at your videos earlier. I encourage anyone to go look at earthpaint.org. One of the videos in there shows Matt, and I think he said, it's hard. He has some skills that could be used in a job site, but people look at him and say, you're a liability in a job site. I mean, he says that in the videos, like, you're not going to move around is dangerous. He's like, I know how to do this stuff. I can do all this stuff. So he said that he finds a lot of joy running your operation because he's able to do it at his pace, at his speed, but do it with excellence because he's completely capable, just a little bit slower, like you said. That's fascinating. So the operational side of running a nonprofit, Accordis, our company that sponsors this podcast, we do back office operations for lots of nonprofit organizations. There's a lot of different components. What is the part of the back office that is the most cumbersome and chunky and difficult for you? What is the thing like, man, I had to figure this out and I've learned to do it? Or what are the areas that are very easy and natural for you that are on the back office side of things? Because running a nonprofit, although you don't want to say it's a business, it's not a business. It's not there to make money. It's owned by the community, but it is an organization that has to run with all of the necessary components of a business. So what do you find this easy and what do you find this chunky and difficult through the organization?
Um, Chunky. I love that. There is a massive amount of overhead with what we do. Everybody gets paid. We have two trucks that are running constantly, driving around, picking up paint, finding paint. We have two facilities that we have to pay for and have all the utilities that come with that, and amongst all the other things that run when you have a brick and mortar. And then we make a product. The paint that we actually make is for sale to the community. And so there's a lot of overhead when it comes to trying to find that customer to try out the product and say it's amazing. It's better than anything that you can buy from any home store because the recycling process, and I've got a whole page on our website that kind of describes why the product outperforms anything that you can buy at any price. So that's a challenge too, to try and get our customers say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to change my buying behavior and I'm going to try your product. And I love your mission, but I'm skeptical. And so keep continuing to have that funding. We've never gotten a grant. We've applied for hundreds of them and we've never gotten anything. I couldn't tell you why, because I feel like we're a very special organization, but perhaps we're not specialized enough to qualify for these grants that we're going for. So we really rely on the generosity of people to help fund the program, and that takes a lot of work. So, and I'm kind of the mad scientist. I'm the one that comes in, everything's running great, and I say, "Hey, I've got a new idea. Go." And then there's this whole learning process to try this idea and see if it's going to be more efficient, or maybe a customer asked for something and say, you know what, I think more customers are going to ask for that. Let's change our pace here and really separate out this particular product line, and that's going to slow things down a little bit. So, yeah, I do wear quite a few different hats, and I do enjoy that because I have a very strong ADHD, and running this company, I would say I fit in just as well as everybody else. Being neurodivergent and finding all of these things that keep me busy, I think is another challenge just on my own to try and keep things organized, and overcome my own challenges to run this operation, and really relying on the people that I've put in place. So, Tony runs our store that's in the Oak Park area, that's Chicago, and Matt's running the other facilities. So I'm constantly telling them, "Hey, I've got this new idea. You want to try it?" And they're like, "Whoa, okay, let's think about it a little bit, and they bring me back down to earth. But yeah, I think the biggest challenge, and probably the biggest challenge with a lot of organizations, is where's that next dollar going to come from so that we can continue to keep our people employed and pay our bills and keep the lights on. So that's the majority of my life.
And just to clarify, you charge to take paint, is that right? And then you also sell paint, and you also take donations. So there's three different three different revenue streams. They're all, some are large, some are smaller. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the prices that we charge when the paint comes in is the vast majority of the funding. So people are essentially paying for us to take away the paint. Now that we are in Illinois, and that completely shuts off December 1st, because there's a new program that I believe you're in Minnesota, correct?
Our team's all over the country. I'm in Tennessee, but yeah, you talked to someone in
Okay.
Minnesota earlier. Yeah.
So there's a program called Paint Care that's going to start in Illinois, and that eliminated our funding 100%. So now we have to find a new way to bring in 90% of the funding that we have coming in when people are making donations along with the paint. So that's going to be a new challenge, and we're hoping that we can ramp up the sales portion of our product and really let people know this is something that you're going to be ecstatic with, and it's a lower price than anywhere else. It's a higher quality product. So please shift your spend towards earth paint so that we can continue to run our program. Individual donations, I would say, is a very small portion of what we do. Probably less than 3% of everything that we run comes from individual donations, or like a GoFundMe, or just fundraising events that we try. So yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of success when it comes to bringing those funds in, but our paint doesn't sell very well. That's probably 10% of our funding. So yeah, we're spinning our wheels now and shifting and pivoting and trying to figure out where this is going to take us now that we have to run like a more traditional nonprofit, I guess you could say.
Yeah. There's definitely value in being able to charge for services that are provided through a nonprofit. So you guys charging to sell paint and even to receive paint until that ends is great. We always encourage our clients to think of other revenue sources so you're not completely dependent on one or two or three grants. Well, that's very risky because you can lose two of those very quickly with the government drying up a lot of money right now. A lot of that has gone away for organizations that have relied on one or two grants for 20 years. So having an
Right.
array, charging for some, receiving individual donations, receiving some corporate donations, and receiving some government grants. That's a good array of having different funding sources coming in. If you had to guess where you be, where will you be in 5 years? Like, what is the dream of Earth Paint in 5 years?
Yeah, ultimately, we would like to grow. We would like to be present in more areas of the country. But there's also roadblocks when it comes to that too. So, I have a family with young kids, so I'm not in a position to be able to travel very often. And, can I take care of some of my staff and appoint them to do things like that? Yeah, absolutely. We could try that. There's a million different roadblocks that you don't know what you don't know kind of situation. So, and as we get further away from these heavily, like Chicago, this is an affluent area compared to a lot of the country. So, when we're asking for people to donate money along with the paint, they're vehemently opposed to that. Why should I have to pay to get rid of this product? I could just throw it away. Well, we've overcome that objection for 13 years now. So you open up in another state that's a little more rural. Is there going to be enough funding to do what we do, considering we know the costs? What we charge to bring paint in barely covers the bills of what we're doing. And I think people now here understand that, but it's going to be a challenge to overcome those objections as we grow to different areas. So we'll have to figure out what the market will bear.
Yeah, so what I heard was new ways to serve in taking in and recycling different products, but also to grow Earth Paint in the footprint you have today, and serving more people by them working with you, and serving the environment by taking paint, processing it the right way, and then being able to sell that back to the community. I love what you're doing. Thanks for the work you're doing. And if you or anybody else out there that sees this podcast has a nonprofit you're running and has the back office work that's piling up, database, accounting, or marketing, reach out to Accordus. We sponsor this podcast, and we love talking with and interacting with folks like Chris. Chris, what you're doing matters. Keep it up. It's a long journey, but it's worth it. So thanks for the work you're doing there. It's been great talking with you today, and have a great day.
Absolutely. And if I could say, jump on earthpaint.org and you can see the news fitted footage of doing what we do, and maybe it'll inspire you to reach out to us and get involved somehow.
Yep. And we'll link to that in this podcast episode. So you guys can look below and click that link also. Chris, have a great day. Blessings.